The debut of newly acquired offensive rebounding specialist Tristan Thompson saw the former NBA champion score 11 points and go 3 of 3 from the field. Ayo Dosunmu admirably spent some quality time with his son Ice Trae, as the rookie held Young to an ice-cold 3 of 17 from the field, while also crossing him up on the other end. As for the disrespected DeMar DeRozan, despite carrying the number 1 seeded team by joining the Beard, LeBron, Kobe, MJ, Elgin, and Wilt as the 7th player ever to post 8 straight games of scoring 35-plus points, the mainstream media continues to dismiss the fact that he's the MVP frontrunner. So this video shows you the details on why the Chicago Bulls keep getting deadlier. Right quick, only 12.3% of you watching right now are subscribed, so if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video. Also, leave a thumbs up. It takes a few seconds and makes a massive difference. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DFlowHoops, and I'll follow you back. Link is in the description for those 2 platforms. Considering they currently rank number 29 in offensive rebounding, venturing the buyout market for a big man was super necessary for Chicago. Spending 34 games between the Sacramento Kings and Indiana Pacers in 2021-22, the 254-pound big man with a 7'2" wingspan in Tristan Thompson seems to be thrilled and motivated to be on a team with expectations of winning a chip. Following his first outing for the Windy City on Thursday, highlighting how he wants to be a star in his role like he did when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers during their several finals runs, Thompson spoke on how he looks up to the way Dennis Rodman played, saying, "He was the first person, I believe, in this league in NBA history to be a star in their role." I remember saying that exact quote, saying, "be a star in a role," when we were making those runs in Cleveland. He was definitely the definition of being a star in a role, and that was something that I wanted to embody in my game. The fact that I'm able to put 5 years later, preparing to impose that same impact for basketball fans in Chi-Town come the postseason, despite having racked up a total of 83 playoff games and not being the young kid that made a name for himself back in the day, the now 31-year-old Tristan is still looking very spry. In his Bulls debut, he was defending the pick and roll extremely well. For the Boston Celtics in last year's postseason, TT put up a very solid 10-point, 10-rebound, and 1.2 block stat line, albeit in a short and swift 5-game defeat to the Brooklyn Nets. The Chicago Bulls may be the perfect fit for Tristan because the combination of offensive juggernauts puts Thompson in almost the exact same position that he was in almost half a decade ago on the championship Cavs. While he's coming off the bench, he's surrounded by 3 prolific scorers. First it was Braun, Uncle Drew, and K-Love. Now the former Kardashian is responsible for keeping possessions alive for Deebo, Young Hollywood, Zach LaVine, and the stretch big up front in Vooch. Moving on to our next segment, where it's easy to say the All-Star break didn't do anything to slow down the current generational dominance of this era's greatest mid-range shooter in DeMar DeRozan. Straight putting the city of big shoulders on his back with typically massive daggers in the clutch, DeRozan finished with 37 in the Bulls' 112-108 W against the Atlanta Hawks to go along with 6 boards and 3 dimes. For whatever reason, it has no sway on who wins MVP, but Deebo now leads the second-place Giannis in total fourth-quarter points by a whopping 55. Demonstrating how big of an advantage that is, the 55-point advantage in final period bucket getting is the same gap between the number 4 ranked Curry and the number 11 ranked Embiid. To lead off the fourth against the Hawks, after receiving the post entry from Dosunmu in an unorthodox horns action run by Coach Billy Donovan, DeMar makes this face-up and slight drive into his jab step, leading into a Dirk-esque turnaround jumper look easy with his definite NBA best footwork. To be fair, Kevin Knox was well out of his league, but Double K kept thinking Double D wanted to burst through the lane with his hops, which led to 3 consecutive pull-up jumpers, with Kevin matched up on DeMar to open the last frame. That forced DeAndre Hunter onto DeRozan, but even after he was doubled, mind-boggling LeBron-esque kickouts like this one to Kobe White tend to throw off opposing defenses. Then, taking a 4th different Hawk for a tango dance within the quarter, down 3 with 49 seconds to go, DeRozan displays right here that his stop-and-go badge is clearly on Hall of Fame, shedding Bogdanovich with 1 simple hesitation dribble and mini step-back. But Atlanta still had a lead, and Hawks coach Nate McMillan opted to put Bogdan back on DeMar. But for some reason, Bogdanovich doesn't press up on DeMar right here, letting him get a full head of steam which allows DeMar to spin like a Beyblade into the lane to get Bogey out of position before fading away for the Jordan-esque and one. As we looked into in the intro, the outing against ATL was the damn 8th consecutive time DeMar scored at least 35, but more excitingly, if DeRozan manages to do that again in the Bulls' next 2 games against the Memphis Grizzlies and Miami Heat, he'd tie Michael Jordan's franchise record. If you're wondering about the NBA record, that's highly unlikely, considering Wilt the Stilt scored at least 35 in a staggering 33 straight games back in 1962. In terms of the Bulls' rookie, late in the fourth quarter against Atlanta with 30 seconds remaining and the shot clock winding down, Trae Young drove to the hoop with the Hawks up by 1, but key in on how Dosunmu utilizes his foot speed, anticipation, and size to utterly bother Trae the entire drive before forcing him into an errant attack to the hoop, which Ayo perfectly stops. Showing that he's got more than just ISO defense in his bag though, this ridiculous double crossover gets Young leaning, and while most players would have missed the attempt with the crowd going insane, the rookie stays poised enough to calmly transition into a smooth pull-up J on the right wing. That type of beastly crossover and pull-up in traffic, along with many other moves this kid's shown off, display a couple factors to me which could scare fans of other East contenders. First of all, if Dosunmu continues to develop that mid-range DeRozan-esque pull-up, then that gives the Windy City's ball club a ridiculous amount of shot creation, not only this year, but well into the future, with all the Bulls' top players still having a good amount of their primes left. And maybe more dangerously, the implications of plays like that for Dosunmu individually are that once he gets an NBA offseason under his belt and comes back as a sophomore, man could show some serious progression. Given the all-NBA caliber defense he's shown off despite being in the first pro season of his career, once he gets another year or 2 under his belt, it's crazy to envision the valuable type of talent Ayo could be on both ends by that time. It's even more insane to think about that one of the primary reasons GM Mark Eversley even selected the University of Illinois alumni with the number 38 overall pick was because he was a hometown kid. It was an absolute robbery of a selection. Twice, multiple teams passed on picking Ayo, and right now, those managements are deeply regretting it. But I want to know your take. What does the acquisition of Tristan Thompson mean for Chicago? Best answer down below in the comments gets next video's shoutout. Top 5 commenters with the most shoutouts by March 21st receive free NBA merchandise of their choosing this spring, so leave your take on today's question to compete in Community Speaks. Today's Speaks winner is Ken Saludo, who says, I would describe Luka as a potential greatest of all time contender. You might say I'm crazy, but hear me out. Luka's only turning 23, but he's already a 3-time All-Star and 2-time All-NBA player. He made the playoffs 2 out of his first 3 seasons. He's only starting his NBA career, but he's already considered a top 10 player in the NBA. Pause to read the rest of that answer. I hope you have a great one. D-Flow signing off.